Good evening. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Toya Singh. This is a story where we take a look at all of the day's stories through the lens of just the facts. For our first story today, we're looking at the dramatic developments that seemingly continue to play out in Haryana. They've resulted already in the deaths of 5 people. On Monday, communal clashes broke out. This was during a procession that was taken out by the VHP and the Bajrang Dal that resulted in the death of at least 5 people, including 2 home guards. Now, 12 police personnel were also injured in that violence. All of this took place in the very sensitive Nuh region, a region where incidents like this have taken place both last year and the year before that. Now, the opposition has pointed out exactly that. They've said that this region was already a sensitive one. Why want more precautionary measures put in place when this procession passed through the region? They've also said the circulation of purportedly inflammatory videos was already taking place. Why weren't the police more aware of what was happening on the ground? This is what we look to take a look at tonight. Could more have been done? And if yes, why wasn't it? This is our big debate and discussion point. Let me first take you to a map. We'll take a look at where Nuh is located. Now, on this map, I want to point out a few things for you. We're going to first, obviously, take a look at where in Haryana all of this took place. There is Gurugram. Gurugram, civil lines to be specific, is where the procession was flagged off from at about 10 a.m. on Monday morning. Now, that procession was supposed to make its way down south, but on its way, and when I say down south, it was just a 17-hour journey to further down in the same state, but it was at Nuh that this incident took place. Now, we're going to walk you through more of the details, but first, Firozpur Jirka is where it was supposed to go, 84 kilometers south. Now, as we've told you, the distance from Nuh to Gurugram, so Nuh is where this incident took place. Nuh to Gurugram, that distance is about 60 kilometers. Now, there are more incidents that have since taken place. We're going to focus on all of those in just a little while from now. Sona and Badarpur are the 2 other regions we're focusing on. Sona because that's where much of the violence overflowed out yesterday in the later hours. After the incidents yesterday, early today morning in a part of Gurugram, a religious structure was attacked by a mob of 70 to 80 people. We know that 1 person died there. That happened early today morning. And just a few hours ago, another incident took place in Haryana. In that incident, 2 shops were burnt down. That incident took place just about 15 minutes away from where the religious structure had been burnt early today morning. So sites of violence, sites of conflict very much continuing across the state. Let's take a look at exactly what happened now in Nuh, the conflict and its aftermath. We'll take a look at it in just a second. So the violence was reported around 2 p.m. yesterday. We first shared this news with you around 2 p.m. Essentially, as we told you, the procession had started on its way from civil lines. It was flagged off in civil lines at about 10 a.m. Now, by 1 or 2 p.m., they'd made their way towards Nuh. And multiple reports indicate that there was actually a group of people standing at a certain turning point in Nuh. Stones were pelted at this procession. Now, the procession, as we just told you, had VHP and Bajrang Dal members in it. This was a yatra by them. Now, those participants, their version is that when the stones were pelted at them, they ran in different directions. They did later regroup and attempt to retaliate. Now, we know that in the conflict that followed, about 100 vehicles were torched. Cyber police station, that was also attacked in the region. Now, there are different witness accounts to this entire incident. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But let's talk right now about the numbers, because we're learning that at least 5 people were killed, including, and this is particularly important, 2 home guards. Several cops were left injured in that violence. Now, the violence was later also reported in the adjoining Sona district. We told you there was an outflow of people on the highway. That incident took place later in the evening. Early today morning, as we told you, there was an incident in which 80 to 90 people burnt down a religious structure in Gurugram in Sector 57. And today afternoon, again, another incident where 2 shops were burnt down. Now, let's go to the question we're going to be taking a deeper look at today also. What exactly triggered the violence in Nuh? How far back does the Nuh story go? Now, as we told you already, Nuh is not a region that is entirely a stranger to communal issues, communal fairing up. As we've told you already, an incident took place in 2022 and in 2021. This particular incident, what led to it? There was a rumor that had been sparked that Monu Manesar was present in the yatra. Who is Monu Manesar? We'll take a deeper dive into this in just a second. He is a Bajrang Dal member. He's also someone who calls himself a cow vigilante. He's been recognized by the state of Haryana as that in the past. Now, he has been booked for the murder of 2 Muslim men in the region of Bhiwani, and the Haryana and the Rajasthan police are still searching for him, which means that yesterday, when all of this took place, he was absconding, he was at large. There were rumors that he would show up and take part in that procession. In fact, there were videos in which exactly that assertion was made. One of Monu's videos had actually gone viral before the entire procession took place on Monday, and there were other counter videos in which some dared Monu to come to know before the yatra. Now, knowing all of that, let's take a look at the action that was taken by the Haryana police. As we already told you, some had known already that there could be some conflict created because of the circulating of videos. Now, we told you the violence took place yesterday. What's happened since? What has the police done after that? Internet has been suspended in the Nuh region, Faridabad and Sona till August 2. A number of institutions were shut today across Nuh. Section 144 was imposed immediately after, just a few hours after, in Nuh, in Faridabad and in Sona. We also know that earlier today there was a peace committee of sorts that was formed to control the situation. The Chief Minister chaired a meeting with top officials. The Home Minister was in Ambala through this entire set of incidents. Earlier today, he's learned to have addressed and spoken to some of his aides about this. We're taking a deeper dive into this story because it is the top national story right now. As tension grips Haryana, is police in action behind the unrest? Let's take a look.
Currently at the place at which I am reporting from, it's in Nuh, and this was one of the epicenter of the violence that broke out yesterday.
We are in sector 57 Gurugram right now, where violence unfolded last night, claiming 1 life. This is the building behind me. As you can see, it's an under construction where a board of a mosque has also been put up.
सब जिलों में शांति स्थापित इस समय की गई है, फिर भी एहतियात के तौर पर वहाँ कर्फ्यू लगाया गया है। कुछ जिलों में 144 धारा भी लगाई गई है, सारी नज़र रखी जा रही है।
जिस तरह से 2 समूह में तनाव बना, ना सिर्फ बहुत दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है लेकिन बहुत पीड़ादायक भी है, क्योंकि हरियाणा के अंदर इस तरह की घटना कोई इतिहास नहीं रहा है।
Okay, to bring us more context on this story, we have my colleague Anshul Singh. Anshul has been present on the ground through the day-to-day, bringing us ground reports. Let's go over to him to understand more. Anshul, we have a paucity of time. We have 3 questions we're going to try to get to you. Anshul, the first question for you, can you tell us, many reports are indicating that certain videos had gone viral before the incident took place. Tell our audiences, because the Congress response to the incident has been that the police had enough indication, videos were going viral, there was enough indication that something might happen, they should have been more aware. Can you give our audiences more details about what had already happened before the incident took place?
Well, that's very true. Even the police knows that, and even the police has agreed to this fact that yes, there were inputs that something like this could happen on the very day that the Shobha Yatra would be taken out. Because remember, over the last 2 weeks, Monu Manesar has constantly been posting videos on social media, and those videos were going viral, especially in this district of Nuh. And not only Monu Manesar, but yes, people from the other side, men from the other side were also posting videos on social media challenging Monu Manesar to come to Nuh, and they said that they are ready to welcome from him. So yes, this entire tension was actually prevailing for at least 2 weeks, because remember the date of the Shobha Yatra was announced at least 2 weeks ago, and since then this tension was prevailing. Now what did the police do? The police absolutely chose to ignore this tension. There was a massive failure of local intelligence that the police has agreed to, that yes, it was a failure of local intelligence, because yes, weapons were being collected. There were stones that were collected on the rooftop of houses as well, and even after that the police had no idea whatsoever that the entire situation could flare up in such a massive manner. We have seen that how many police officials have now been called since the time the incident has happened, but couldn't these police officials be called 24 hours ago, so that the situation that has developed over here that could have been taken under control? Several vehicles have been torched, many people have lost their life, although the official number has just turned out to be 5, but yes, many people are still severely injured and are admitted in hospitals. Will they be able to get out of hospital alive? That is another big question.
Anshul, I need to quickly ask you a follow-up question here, because I do want to give our audiences context. After the original incident, multiple incidents have taken place after that too, with perhaps the most severe being that a group of 70 to 80 people attacked a religious structure early in the morning today that resulted in the death of one person. The Haryana police says they've increased security across the state. Still, incidents like this are taking place. Can you bring us more context?
Well, yes, senior officials of the Haryana police are present on the ground in Nuh, especially because remember that is the location from where this entire incident blew up. Now, yes, as you rightly mentioned, there are reports of violence that has come up from Gurugram. In fact, Badshahpur is another location where shops were burnt in the evening itself. Whereas Palwal, which is also very close to the Nuh district, there are also reports of violence that has come out from there. Now, if you see the entire manner in which this incidents are happening, it seems like that it is not organic, but it could have been planned in a way to give an answer to the people who created those riots when that Shobha Yatra was being taken out. So yes, there are several questions that needs to be answered. The Haryana administration, neither the Haryana police has been able to answer those questions. They are seeing that the main priority at this point in time is to make sure that peace returns to the district of Nuh, and people who have been living here could actually step out of their houses without any fear of any sort of riots. Post that, accountability will be fixed. Now, who is accountable for this entire incident? That is something that remains to be seen, because remember, the SP of Nuh was on leave when such a massive yatra was being carried out from his district, and he went on leave, where there were specific inputs that the situation could flare up. Why weren't booths called on ground at the right time? The police says that yes, there were adequate security arrangements that were made, and the police was present on several locations. In fact, several pit points were also made for the police official, because remember, as you rightly mentioned at the start of the show, that this yatra was supposed to be 80 kilometers long, and hence the police said that it was not practically possible for them to make sure that police is present each and everywhere along that yatra, and hence they were present at sensitive spots, is what the police claim. But yes, since yesterday we have seen that that there is a massive increase of personnel on the ground, be it the central forces or police forces from other districts in Haryana who have been deployed over here. Couldn't these forces...
Anshul, just stay with us. Now, something that my colleague Anshul has said is what we're going to take a deeper dive into. What more could have been done? What was done? We have a number of guests to discuss this with us today. This is Plain Speak. All right, let's take a look at all of the guests that we have joining us on the panel. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. We have Shashikant ji, is a former DGP from Punjab. We have Wing Commander Anuma Acharya. She's with us. She's a Congress spokesperson. Ma'am, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Vinod Bansal is a national spokesperson for the VHP, and Savio Rodriguez is a senior journalist. We're going to come over to each of you to ask you your reactions to this incident. But first, Shashikant ji, I'm going to start with you. I'm coming to you, sir. But before I do want to tell our audiences, the details we've received from the police is that they had about 1,000 people stationed, as my colleague Anshul was saying, in 3 different points that they considered sensitive. So, my colleagues and a number of expert opinions about everything that's played out in the last day and a half is that the police did not act when they needed to act. As someone with an intimate understanding of the way such incidents can play out, how do you look at this incident and its aftermath?
Well, to start with, I'll give my compliments to you. For a change, I think I've been on various channels. For a change, you're trying to bring out the real picture. At least that's your effort right now. If you look at it, like as a former policeman, as a person who has worked in central and all sorts of intelligence agencies, I see that everything was brewing up. It was just a lack of appreciation. It started brewing up right from February 23 when those two guys who were killed allegedly by some cow vigilante guys, and the Prime Minister himself has said on a number of occasions that he's not going to permit such a thing. Why Haryana police had failed to take action? That's the point from where the things have started simmering up. Then there's social media warfare, which was going on for almost 2 weeks, both parties claiming and threatening each other, and that clearly shows that they were trying to be absolutely ready and be prepared, and probably they had this action plan in mind that what they had to do. Like I was looking at certain channels, the kind of stones they were showing, they were from the quarry stones which are used for the construction of houses and stuff. Somebody was sort of collecting them. The kind of guns that came out all of a sudden, definitely somebody had storing them. It all is indeed a matter of deep investigation. But I say one thing that I refuse to believe that the state government, state agency, police were unaware of it. Being from an ex-IB guy, I know that this kind of incidents, we send written information to the respective state governments and to the agency, and there's lots of coordination. We talk to each other, etc. Hey, this is going to happen. It's about the time. Please control it. It appeared that somebody failed to see that. How? I don't know. That is not within my purview because I'm not a politician. So I'll just submit these things as a police officer, ex-police officer, and ex-intelligence guy. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to come back to you to ask you more. I want to right now go over to Savio Rodriguez, a senior journalist who's with us. Mr. Rodriguez, the Deputy Chief Minister in this state, Dushyant Chautala, he himself has commented in an interview he gave just a few hours ago in which he himself said, and I'm going to quote here, which is why I have it with me, he said the administration failed in its duty to prevent these clashes despite the circulation. Specifically, sir, that's not the wording he's used. He said the management was not at its best. Sir, that coming from a Deputy Chief Minister is huge. What is your comment?
You see, when such incidents happen and there is a breakdown of law and order, it is eminent that the responsibility be fixed to the people who are responsible for the law and order in a particular state. So it's absolutely right when people question the police for failing on two fronts, which is the intelligence and the control of the situation that has gone out of hand. We are seeing over the last couple of weeks and months, there have been absolute failure by state administrations across different states in their inability to control religious or, as in Manipur, ethnic conflagrations that have been happening. And for us, that is very important as a nation, because what you have right now happening are two religious communities that are conflicting with each other for reasons that they believe to be true. And in the end, they themselves, whether they are Hindus or Muslims, because overall they are Indians, end up causing a huge damage to themselves and to the state and to India as a nation. And unfortunately, this hate that exists or is being percolated is driven by the hate that you see on social media. Therefore, at this point of time, it is necessary for all political leaders in India to actually stay away from political upmanship as far as religious conflagrations are concerned, as we are seeing in Nuh right now.
Okay.
And work with the people to ensure peace so that it does not go out of hand. An investigation is very necessary as to what triggered this violence and who are the perpetrators of this violence and the conflict that has happened. Because it is spreading and it needs to be curtailed in the interest of people who are Indians more than being of their religious denomination.
Okay. All right, sir, just stay with us. I'd also like to request both the other guests to stay with us. We have some breaking news coming in related to this story that I want to bring our audiences an update with. We told you that violence took place not just in the region of Nuh but also in the neighbouring regions of Sona and parts of Gurugram. We're learning now that private and government educational institutes are going to remain closed in Sona tomorrow. That announcement has just come in. My colleague Akash with us on the phone line to bring us more in terms of context. Akash, we've just shared this update with our audiences. Tell us, what is the mood, what is the situation right now in Sona, in the neighbouring district of Nuh, that called for this kind of measure? Tell us.
Right. So, first of all, Toya, situation is under control. This is what authorities are saying. We know about the communal tensions in Nuh that began with the religious procession where two communities came against each other and a number of, incidents happened in Nuh. But after that, we saw that how Section 144 was imposed not just in Nuh but also in Gurugram and several other districts of Haryana. As of now, this order is by District Magistrate Gurugram in fact, and this is for Sona. Sona is basically a subdivision under Gurugram, and it has been categorically said that because of the communal tensions that are going on in the nearby areas, all the institutes, be it private or the government, have been advised to remain shut on 2nd of August, and this is what the official order is talking about. And you see, Toya, it is not limited to just Sona, Gurugram or Nuh. In fact, several incidents were witnessed in some other areas too. However, authorities as of now are saying that situation is under control. In fact, several sorts of companies from Central Paramilitary Forces have been there deployed, and also we are learning that police is there on ground, which is taking, control of the situation and, in fact, advising and, in fact, giving instructions to people that they should not take law and order. Also, it is important to mention, Toya, that Gurugram is very close to the national capital, and, in fact, in Gurugram, several sort of instructions were passed to, employees who are working with private companies that they should go home.
Akash, we are running out of time. I'm so sorry for cutting you off. We do need to go back to our panel of guests because I do want to take a deeper dive into the situation itself. We have Vinod Bansal. He's the national spokesperson for the VHP. I'm going to go over to him next. Sir, good evening. Sir, I want to understand from you, the VHP and the Bajrang Dal were reportedly both part of the procession. The procession started in a part of Gurugram, civil lines. It then made its way down to Nuh, and that's where this violence broke out. So I want to understand, what do your members on the ground in the Nuh region, your members on the ground in Gurugram, what do they say? Did they have an indication of any kind that this might happen?
No, not at all. We were not anticipating anything. If we could have anything in anticipation, then we could have made some special arrangement. But the fact of the case is that after this violence broke out, we came to know that so many social media messages were viral by the jihadist forces and the Islamic fundamental forces actually, and they are going to try to instigate the Muslim youths. And the way the Muslim leaders were instigating the local Muslims, that is also the point where they got instigated, or they thrown us the stones and all. तो आप देखिए कि जब हमारी यात्रा शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से जो मंदिर से जब निकलनी थी, थोड़ा सा आगे गए थे तो सामने से पत्थर फेंकने लगा. उसके बाद जब हमने देखा कि जब ज्यादा रिटेलिएशन करने का मौका नहीं है और हमें रिटेलिएट नहीं करना और ये मामला शांत हो जाए, लेकिन शांत नहीं हुआ. पीछे को लौटने लगे तो पीछे से ही पत्थर आने लगे. और जब मंदिर में कैद हो गए तो आप देखिए कि कुछ चंद पुलिसकर्मी थे, उन्होंने किसी तरह से अंदर तो कर दिया हमें, लेकिन जो उसके मंदिर के तीन तरफ पहाड़ियां हैं और तीनों तरफ पहाड़ियों से जिस तरह से गोलाबारी होती हुई, लगातार फायरिंग होती रही और किस तरह से महिलाओं को, बच्चों को टारगेट किया गया, ये बड़ा दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण स्थिति है कि निश्चित रूप से कि एक इंटेलिजेंस फेल्योर तो लग रहा है, लेकिन साथ ही साथ जिस तरह से वो भगवान श्री कृष्ण की उस कर्म भूमि और जन्मभूमि को ये जो जिहादी भूमि बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ये दैट इज वेरी हॉरिफिक सिचुएशन. एंड दे हैव डेवलप्ड द मेवात लाइक ए मिनी पाकिस्तान, which the Hindu community or the people of the country will never allow to do that.
Sorry, I must ask. That's a very, Mr. Bansal, one second. Mr. Bansal, 1 second. That's a very strong statement to make. So I'd like to ask if you could give some context to a statement like that. I'm not understanding what you mean when you say that they've made the Nuh region into a mini Pakistan.
Yeah, of course, it is the fact, because so many times the police personnel have been attacked by those Islamic jihadist forces, and you see the 303 the villages of the entire area has become the non-Hindu villages. आप देखिए कि अधिकांश जो गांव हैं वो हिंदू नगण्य हो चुके हैं वहां पर. अब ऐसी स्थिति में आप और क्या कहेंगे उसको? This has really become the mini Pakistan, and we have come to this notice to the honorable chief minister of the state also. और कई सारे लफ्जियात की घटनाएं हिंदुओं पर.
So let me just clarify one second, sir. Mr. Bansal, let me just clarify. Are you saying the high population, the high proportion of Muslims in that region is what qualifies it to be called mini Pakistan? Is that what you're saying?
Not only Muslim population, I am talking about the jihadi population. I mean the jihadi element between the Muslim community are the main culprit who have
Mr. Bansal, let me just look to understand.
Attacked us.
Okay, Mr. Bansal, let me just come to you with a follow-up question here. Our reporters on the ground say, and we had my colleague Anshul join us in the beginning of the show to tell us this, that there were videos of two kinds. As you said, there were videos that were circulated that were instigating the youth of that region. So as you said, the Nuh region. But our reporter was also saying that there were another kind of videos that were provoking the people of Nuh also were spread, videos that shared unfavorable views about the people of Nuh, those videos were also shared. So don't you think both the videos are to blame, sir, for this incident?
No. Can you elaborate whatever video we have circulated or any Hindu community has circulated? No one video has been circulated which can instigate the Islamic mob to attack us. And whatever it is,
sir, nothing. Let me just say, sir, nothing.
It doesn't mean that you will attack
exactly.
us.
Let me say, I'm not saying anything. There's absolutely no way to justify violence. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying, sir, to say that there were only videos from one side, isn't that unfair? That's what I'm asking.
No, it is really the one side. Actually, आप देखिए कि हमारी तरफ से अगर हमने कुछ बोला तो क्या वो हमारे ऊपर हमला करेंगे? एक बात. दूसरी बात क्या कि वो उन्होंने जिस तरह के वीडियो सर्कुलेट किए उनसे वो इंस्टिगेशन मिला उनको. मैं कहता हूं देखिए पुलिस प्रशासन शासन जो वहां पर सोया हुआ था, नो डाउट, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है. इसीलिए लास्ट में जाकर के जब हजारों लोग उस मंदिर के अंदर कन्फाइन हो गए तो देन द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ द स्टेट हैव टू एयर ड्रॉप द पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस टू रेस्क्यू देम. व्हाट इज द सिचुएशन? आर वी वर्किंग इन द बॉर्डर एरिया? नो. We are within the state, and we are within the central portion of the country, and we are only few kilometers from the capital city of the country. आप देखिए कि जब देश की राजधानी से कुछ किलोमीटर दूर पर हमें किसी को रेस्क्यू करने के लिए एयर ड्रॉप करना पड़ेगा. You can very well understand the situation of the particular area. That's why we have demanded today to have the combing operation of the entire the Mewat region. We have demanded the NIA inquiry into the affairs. And we need that one paramilitary forces camp must be established in the Mewat region to curb with all those Islamic jihadist forces who are regularly attacking our religious places. They are regularly attacking Hindus. They are regularly attacking women of the
Mr. Bansal, just stay
area,
with us.
And they are regularly attacking the police forces.
I want to now ask the Congress spokesperson to respond to you because I've also not gone over to her so far. Wing Commander, ma'am, thank you for staying with us this far. I'd like to ask you to take over. What would your response to that be?
Well, what should I say? Because as your reporter has already said, it is not an organic violence. And I don't see these occurrences in Haryana in isolation. There is a pattern that is being craftily instilled in our society. Everybody was asking about Manipur and suddenly these violence erupt. Now, you also have... everybody who has known to these, everybody knows that there was this Jal Yatra to be organized by Vishwa Hindu Parishat, and then there was video circulation. So what has happened? How many times the BJP, the VHP spokesperson said about CAP interrupts, then I think I will have to leave the debate because I am not here for this spread of hatred which he wants to propagate. Here, what they have done, they have. This is a kind
Mr.
of
Mr. Bansal, do stay silent for a second.
Again, I will leave the debate because he is not allowing me to speak. Now, this Vishwa Hindu Parishat, go to their website. They don't have any modus operandi. What are their sources? They only self-acclaim. They say that we are cow protectors.
Have you seen the Congress leaders? तंदूर
always
कांड का
see
पता है
that
आपको ना मैडम?
Okay.
somewhere Bajrang Dal, somewhere they want to change the discourse of this country.
Have you
Something
seen
happened
the
in,
have you seen the Tandoor
Constable
Kand?
Chetan something did it.
Have you seen
Now,
1992 attack on in
2022,
Ajmer?
we have seen a
ये
major
कांग्रेस के कोकर में
Wing
मैडम
Commander, Wing
and
Commander,
killing the
just
Muslims.
wait a second.
84 करने
Mr.
वाले
Bansal,
हिंदू परिषद पर
Mr.
allegation कर
Bansal,
रहे हैं।
मिस्टर
I'm
बंसल आप
sorry,
प्लीज
this
रुक सकते
is
हैं,
not the
आप
way
प्लीज
to
रुक सकते
organize
हैं,
the
मैम को
debate,
बोलने
and this is
दीजिए,
not the way.
उसके बाद हम
Please.
आपके पास आएंगे. मैम प्लीज गो
See,
अहेड.
this is by design. There is a social unrest. The Bharatiya Janata Party is doing it. It is not only being done here, it is being done in Uttarakhand, which was otherwise a peaceful state. It is planned in Madhya Pradesh from Damoh. They wanted to brand one school as a jihadi school. These are the languages. And when you ask a question in parliament, then they say there is no jihadi. There is nobody whom they kill called jihadi or love jihad. But these are the terms they are spreading in the society. And at the end of this, because now this, if you have seen that one mosque was torched yesterday itself. And then with the pretext of this violence, they are going to destroy the Muslim communities. I never wanted to come for a Hindu-Muslim debate. I come from the armed forces wherein we all together have saved the nation. But here what we see, this is by design. It is not organic. Your report has already said. And then this kind of spread that Monu Manesar is going to join the yatra, from where these things come up? कहाँ से आता है ये सब? और इतना ज़्यादा. और as of now, when we are talking, in the pretext of this violence, they are burning the shops at Badshahpur, Manesar, and internet is shut. Our country is the topmost in the shutting of internet events. Last year itself, there were 187 in the entire world and 84 in our country.
तकरीर पूरी हो जाता जरा मुझे भी समय दीजिएगा.
हाँ जी देंगे. मैम प्लीज.
And like in Manipur, they started propagating a foreign hand. Here they started telling that there is a Muslim hand. We all know where it comes from, who is designing it. And this is the election season. This is why all the other states will see these things happening. No amount of debates can justify
Ms.
this.
Ms. Acharya, I do want to go over for one more answer to the other panelists. So do give me a little time. I want to go back to Vinod Bansal from the
all
VHP.
yours, because I don't believe in just somebody is spreading hate and we can't keep on promoting that.
No, I thank you for coming here. I want to ask the VHP one question. Sir, we only have a minute and a half. So, sir, please give a very pointed reply to what I'm asking you. Sir, we know that this exact procession has taken place 3 times before this. This was the 4th time. This is the 4th time that the protest took. This is the 4th time that the procession took place. 3 बार हो चुका है. Wahi Nuh region में. Sir, your point was that the Nuh region is itself the problem. But if the region was the problem, it wouldn't have happened peacefully for 3 previous times. Sir, don't you think then that the video is the clear reason that this incident took place, not some problem in the region as you're saying?
No, not at all. I have not said like this that the region is the problem. The region is very spiritual. The region is very pious. But some jihadi elements are trying to vitiate the atmosphere of the region. The question is that मैं देखिए ये बीच में ये कह रहे बीच में नहीं बोलूंगी मैं ये बीच में बोल रही है ये कांग्रेस की संस्कृति को दर्शाता है. देखिए मेरा नाम विनोद बंसल है मैडम. मेरे पास 30 सेकंड है बस. डोंट ट्राई टू स्नैच माय टाइम. डोंट ट्राई टू स्नैच माय टाइम. You kindly remember your 1992 in Ajmer. Kindly remember 1984 of Delhi. Kindly remember the Tandoor Kand of Delhi. आप कांग्रेस के कुकर्मों को मत प्रदर्शित करिए मैडम. आपके देखिए ये इस चैनल के दर्शकों को अच्छी तरह पता है कांग्रेस के कुकर्मों के बाद में विश्व हिंदू परिषद को नसीहत देने की जरूरत नहीं है. लेकिन ये एक बात मैं सहमत हूँ इनकी बात से कि दिस अटैक वाज नॉट ऑर्गेनिक. डेफिनेटली इट वाज प्री प्लान. It was a pre-planned attack on Hindus.
Then the question we're asking is why wasn't more done if it was pre-planned, right?
Jihadi and Congress has instigated all those Islamic elements to attack us. This is very clear.
I don't think we're going to make much headway in this manner. I'd like to thank all of my panelists for participating in this conversation today. We've had Shashikant Ji. He is, as we just told you, a senior police official. He's a former DGP from Punjab. He brought us his expertise. We had Wing Commander Anuma Acharya. She joined us. Congress spokesperson as she is, and Vinod Bansal, national spokesperson for the VHP, as you just heard, and lastly Savio Rodriguez. I'd like to thank all of you. We're heading into a short break. Coming up after the short break, a storm again erupts over something that has been controversial since it was announced. Guarantees in Karnataka in the Karnataka elections that took place 2 months ago. Are those guarantees still hampering Vikas in the state? At least that's what the BJP argues. Let's take a deeper look in just a few minutes.
Was there between the incident and the FIR being reported, and finally, in fact, it has also been stated that not proper arrests are made in this, in the cases like these, and definitely there is a complete breakdown of the law and order situation, is what the Supreme Court has been constantly saying since the hearing began today.
Ananya, we'll just request you to stay on with us. We want to bring in our colleague Arunima also, who's joining us on the broadcast. Arunima, very crucial development that's coming in from the top court, where the DGP of Manipur now in fact has been summoned, and that hearing on Monday is going to be crucial. The Supreme Court has minced no words, saying there was inaction as far as state authorities are concerned. There were delays in filing the first FIR. Is this a significant breakthrough as far as the investigation for Manipur? And this is developments now coming in from the Supreme Court. This is as far as the hearing on the Manipur video that was on the top court. The Supreme Court has summoned the Manipur DGP. The Chief Justice of India has asked the Manipur DGP to appear on Friday. The Supreme Court has wrapped the Manipur government, saying there was no law and order left in the state. State cops are incapable. Very strong words being used as far as the CGI is concerned. Even yesterday, the Supreme Court had wrapped the Manipur state government, asking why there was a delay as far as the filing of the FIR is concerned, asking the inaction that led to the delay as far as the state authorities were concerned. Ananya Bhatnagar, our legal correspondent, now joining us on the broadcast. Ananya, very strong words coming in and a very crucial development coming in as far as the hearing that was on in the top court, where now we're understanding the Manipur DGP in fact has been summoned. Even yesterday, as I was pointing out, the Supreme Court was very clear. They wrapped the Manipur government, asking for inaction, the delay in filing the FIR. What did we hear from the top court today?
Well, definitely. First, the developments are that, the Manipur DGP has been summoned to appear personally before the court on Monday. He will, in fact, now, be assisting the court with regards to the bifurcation of the FIRs, how investigation has to be carried out. But the observations that have come in from the Chief Justice of India today are something that is very, very troublesome. In fact, the Chief Justice of India has gone on to say today that there was for 2 months in the state of Manipur, there was a complete breakdown of the law and order situation. There was no law and order there, and the state machinery has completely failed in to actually protect the people of Manipur. In fact, it was also deliberating as to how can the investigation in these more than 6,000 FIRs that have been registered in this with relation to this violence be investigated, because all the 6,000 FIRs cannot in fact be entrusted to the CBI, because CBI handles only premier cases, and if at all CBI would be given all these 6,000 FIRs, the CBI itself will break down in investigating all of them. So that mechanism is being devised now. Apart from that, what has also been the concern of the court is with regards to the identification of the dead bodies, for which the court has asked the Solicitor General to come back on Monday. And, very, very crucially, the Supreme Court has held that the investigations that have been conducted so far are very, very tardy, slow, and in fact, few or no arrests have been made in these cases. And in fact, people of Manipur have lost their faith, is something that the CJI could hint at. But on Monday, when the Supreme Court again sits back to hear this particular matter, the DGP of Manipur will be present in the court. He will have to appear before, in fact, the Chief Justice of India's court to actually assist the court with regards to the situation there, with regards to how things can be brought back to normal. And in fact, the Supreme Court is also mulling on to actually create committee headed by former judges of the High Court. So all of this would be a very, very important and crucial hearing on Monday, where Supreme Court could be seen figuring out, or somewhere or the other, drawing a mechanism as to how things in Manipur can actually be improved.
Yeah, very strong words as we pointed out, Ananya, coming in as far as the top court is concerned, and that hearing on Monday is also going to be extremely crucial. I just want to go back to what we heard from the Supreme Court even yesterday, and I want to understand whether there was any development on those lines. Yesterday also we heard from the top court that yes, immediate justice for these victims is needed, but what about a larger mechanism in place to ensure that there is not the kind of inaction that we saw by authorities on the ground? Was there any development on those lines today?
Well, there were certain, important observations that were made by the Chief Justice of India, and I'll take you through all of those observations that were there. In fact, the Chief Justice clearly saying that, there is a complete breakage of the law and order situation, and he also said that it appears that except for one or two cases, there is no arrest at all. Look at the way investigation is so lethargic. The FIRs registered after 2 months, arrests have not been made, statements not recorded. For 2 months, the situation was not even conducive for recording FIRs. In fact, the court was of the view that, it is so difficult even for the Manipur police to enter certain areas and to make arrests. So, and he goes on to say that, it gives us an impression that from beginning of May till July so far, there was no law and order. There was a complete breakdown of the constitutional machinery in the state. You're right that the police could not make arrest cause. That does not point out to the fact that there is a complete failure and breakdown of the law and order machinery in the state, is what the Chief Justice of India said. On Monday, when the court comes back, there would be crucial aspects being discussed. Number one, and the foremost and the most important question that would be answered is as to who will be investigating these 6,000 FIRs that are registered.
Good evening. You're watching Plain Speak right here on CNN News 18. My name is Toya Singh. This is a story where we try to look at the day's top stories through the lens of just the facts. For our second story, we're looking at a persisting debate around the 5 bold promises that were made by the new Karnataka government to its 6.1 crore population. Today, the Prime Minister also referred to those promises in a speech. He said that the development in the state of Karnataka was halted because money had been diverted to giving these freebies. These were his words. Now, what were those 5 promises made by the Karnataka Congress before they came to power? 1, free electricity. 2, rice of a certain amount, 10 kgs. 3, bus travel for women across the state. 4, money to unemployed youths. And 5, money also to women heads of families across the state. Now, these promises are considered to be a key reason behind the Congress's mammoth victory in this state, as we said just a little more than 2 months ago. But their hefty 52,000 crore price tag is one that's long had the opposition up in arms, with the state finance secretary even flagging one promise, the Gruha Lakshmi scheme, back in June. Now we're going to take tonight a deeper look. We're going to look to understand whether there's any truth in this BJP allegation that we hear again and again, that these guarantees are hampering development in one of the country's wealthiest states. And why were they implemented if they'd already been flagged? Let's take a deeper look. But first, let's take a look at what the Finance Department had said. This was back in June. They'd said, A, that Karnataka is going through a set of fiscal constraints. Number 2, they'd said that it was difficult, as we told you already, to implement the Gruha Lakshmi scheme. What is that? That's the scheme in which they've said that women heads of household will be given 2,000 rupees. Now, they've said that the scheme will create huge recurring liability. And indeed, if you look at those 5 promises, this is supposed to be the most expensive one of them to the state exchequer. Now, we also know that the scheme will significantly impact the budget provisions, and this is something that the Finance Department said. They said that the state would be pushed towards a huge revenue deficit. Now, very quickly, let's talk about the 5 plans and what the government's plan is when it comes to each of those 5 plans. Now, the guarantee in total, as we said, is going to cost about 52,000 crores per year to Karnataka's government. This is something, in fact, that the opposition, the BJP leader Amit Malviya, also tweeted out. In a tweet, he said it would cost slightly more, but that's a number that both sides have seemingly been in agreement with. Now, number 2, funds that are meant for SC/ST welfare have been diverted for these guarantees. This is something that we know on record. This, and according to our reporters, funds that were meant for Bangalore's infrastructure, those have been diverted for these guarantees. 11,000 crores in specific have been diverted. Now, this money, as we just told you, would be diverted from plans for the SC and ST communities. But what is the government's logic here? And when I say the government, I mean the Karnataka Congress. Their logic is that their schemes like the Gruha Lakshmi scheme, are schemes that are meant to benefit people of all castes and all communities. So if you are a member of the SC or ST groups, you will benefit from these plans. Let's take a deeper dive. This is essentially what we're looking at. We'll have economists, the BJP, the Congress all join us for this discussion. The freebie conversation. Is Karnataka in a cash crisis, and are these guarantees that they've made actually hampering Vikas? That's what we're taking a deeper look at. Let's take a look at our guests.
Coming to the point of discipline on the matter of finances, who is talking about discipline on the finances? The BJP is the one who pushed the state of Karnataka for a borrowing loan of more than 2.6 lakh crores. And moreover, to be very, very frank, when they were in the election year and they know that they are going for election, why did they give approval for so many projects more than 2 lakh crores?
एक तरफ महाराष्ट्र में हम चौतरफा विकास होते देख रहे हैं, वहीं दूसरी तरफ पड़ोसी राज्य कर्नाटका में जो हो रहा है वो भी हमारे सामने है।
Okay, let's take a look at the guests we have for this conversation tonight. We have Dr. Lakshmi Ashwin. She's a spokesperson for the Karnataka BJP. Good evening, ma'am. We have Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, a spokesperson for the Karnataka Congress. Good morning, ma'am. And good evening, ma'am. And we also have the professor from the Institute for Social and Economic Change, ISEC in Bengaluru. He's also with us. This is Professor Chandan Gowda. Good evening, sir. All right. Before we go ahead, sirs, ma'am, I'd like to make it very clear. My hope with our discussion, I don't want our audiences to get lost in the numbers. It's easy sometimes in these conversations to throw numbers and lose out the point we're trying to make. Professor, I'm going to come to you with my first question. We know initially you had the finance secretary say essentially that the Gruha Lakshmi, which is one of the 5 promises, that in particular, but the other 4 promises too, all of them would cause an immense burden to the state exchequer. Essentially, what the BJP seemed to feel also was that the money doesn't exist. Now, DK Shivkumar has come out in a statement after. You've actually had a number of other Congress leaders come out since and clarify that, look, the money does exist if you shift it out of other places. Our reporters say that the money that was meant for the infrastructure has been shifted in Bangalore infrastructure in specific. Other reporters point out that money that was meant for SC, ST communities, schemes for them, that's been shifted. Sir, I just want to ask you, as someone with a keen economic eye, tell us, is that how it works? Is it indeed that simple? You shift money out from one place and you make money in the budget for other things? And do you see this as something that is financially viable? What's your perspective?
The budget and the allocation for the schemes was done in consultation with the finance department. I remember the chief minister having a series of meetings with them to work out how best to proceed. And the scheme you referred to, the 2,000 rupees a month as stipend for women-headed households, the finance department actually suggested 13 categories to apply before anyone becomes eligible, and that actually shrunk the pool of recipients. So it's not that the government is acting independently of the finance department. There is consultation on an active basis. And the bit about Bangalore infrastructure being very short-changed, I don't think is correct, because Bangalore has almost got 40,000 crores, out of which 30,000 is for the metro. No, 30,000 crores. So I don't think that claim is correct. But the fact is, the entire 5 schemes will not likely exceed more than 16% of the budget. I know you didn't want numbers, but there's no other way.
No, do go ahead with numbers. I just don't want us to lose audiences, but go ahead.
Yeah, so this 16%, it means 84% is left for other things. The rains happened, the relief was immediately announced. So I don't see it as something that is put the government's financial plans out of gear. Someone who mentioned in the beginning of the program that the previous government has incurred a huge expense on lots of contracts, and that is something the government is also committed to working with. That's 2.5 lakh crore projects actually. They're trying to see what the genuine costing is, etc., etc. But I feel that the government schemes, whatever the election planning may have been, the schemes in themselves are being welcomed by the recipients, and I don't think it is throwing things out of gear. And I really feel we ought to hold off for at least a few months before trying to judge the effectivity of these schemes and what it means for the running of the day-to-day administration in other departments.
Okay, so I know the perspective you provided was a analytical one, not political, but I'm still going to go over to the BJP spokesperson who's with us, Dr. Lakshmi Ashwin, and ask her, ma'am, we've heard from sir right now. He's essentially saying, give them a chance to implement it. Let's see how it plays out. Then let's comment. Ma'am, why doesn't the BJP do that in the state?
First of all, I would like to say the fact that ever since the Congress government came to power, it has always been mired with the controversies. Now it is a term with respect to Gruha Lakshmi Yojana. The Congress government seems to have a myopic vision about the fiscal prudence of our economy, our state economy, which is the basic tenet of for any economy to thrive well, and which is the utmost requirement for any economy to be sustainable. Now, despite given the warnings given by the finance department for implementing Gruha Lakshmi Yojana, that is huge amounts of funds are required, and that's not possible under this juncture and in this scenario. They don't have botherings about the fiscal prudence. They are in the hurry to take our economy to fiscal bankruptcy. Now, with the implementation of Gruha Jyoti Yojana, they've already increased the electrical tariff. That has already started disincentivizing small and medium scale industries, which is the requirement for the manufacturing sector. That will erase the manufacturing sector. That has already started erasing the manufacturing sector because electric tariff being the major raw material for any small and medium economy to be thrive well. With the improvement under our government, BJP government, with the advent of the new manufacturing policy and with the congenial atmosphere for the ease of doing business, with the congenial atmosphere for the FDI, foreign direct investment and foreign institutional investment, we have achieved maximum manufacturing activity, and that has improved the manufacturing base, that has helped us to improve the employment rate and to increase the economical activity. But with the Congress government, with the advent of the Congress government, we've already entered the vicious cycle, that is decreasing the economical activity, increasing the inflation, decreasing the employment rate, decreasing the
sorry, I do need to ask, what do you mean when you say that these promises will decrease economic activity? You've given one example, but I feel like that's such a broad stroke statement. Could you qualify it, please? Give us more in terms of context.
If we spend more amount of money, which is allocated in the budget for one scheme, what will they do for another schemes, for other welfareistic schemes? Doing the freebies politics. We believed in self-reliance. Just by giving 2,000 rupees for one household doesn't decrease the poverty rate. In fact, they are pushing them to perpetual poverty.
Dr. Ashwin, I'd just like to ask you to stay with us. Let's go over to Ms. Narsima
We
Murthy,
believed in self-reliance.
Ma'am, let me get a Congress response to what you just said. Bhavya, do you want to go ahead, please?
So the Gruha Lakshmi Yojana, first of all, this was promised to the state of Karnataka and our voters only because of the previous BJP government and their the corruption field, which had pushed the people of Karnataka to the brink of poverty. When it comes to development, don't you think this improving the standard of living of people comes up the topmost priority? This was the complete intention behind Gruha Lakshmi Yojana. Yes, we already knew that there will be budget constraints in this. The Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has presented 13 budgets so far, and and so far he has never violated any of the conditions of FRBM Act. But this time, yes, still we have fulfilled 2 conditions of this FRBM Act, which was not even respected under the BJP's regime. When it comes to economics, yes, this time, Gruha Lakshmi Yojana, I'm not denying this will be a burden on the state's exchequer, but this is like an investment. And like the economic expert here, he said, we should be given a chance to prove ourselves. And BJP has this urgency, in attacking Congress in every way possible. They're so aimless and directionless that without any argument, they place this, and all of a sudden there will be, they'll have this tongue in the cheek movement. Whether it was our guarantees, implementation to the budget, where they didn't even have an opposition to even discuss the budget in the assembly, to now starting a discussion of KMF saying we, stopped supplying KMF Nandini ghee to Tirupati, and it happened that for the past 1.5 years, when BJP was in power, also they were not supplying the same, and they had not applied for the tender. So BJP is having this tongue in the cheek movement every time because they are aimlessly and directionlessly attacking Congress without a leader of opposition in the assembly. I think they should first have an agenda. They should first behave responsibly before opposing Congress.
Okay. Ma'am, can I just ask you to stay with us? I want to take one more question over to Professor Chandan Gowda. We'll then come back to both of the political panelists too. Professor, I just want to understand from you, when it comes to the larger conversation around freebies, one of the statements that we had the Congress spokesperson who's with us on the show say is that this is an investment, something you're doing now that will hopefully have dividends later. Tell us, is that how this typically works? These promises have been called freebies. If I were to call them freebies for just a second, are there other examples where freebies have worked in that manner in the long term in other states, for example?
I think it's incorrect to call them freebies because there's something pejorative about it.
Yes.
It's got a bad ring to it.
Correct, yeah.
These are well-known welfare measures in the West. I mean, the unemployment dole has been around for decades. And that is something that the Congress is trying to introduce here as the fifth scheme, which is not yet taken off because they're still working out the criteria for who should be eligible for it and the amount, etc. So I frankly welcome this. If you think about it, ma'am, the entire budget for the metro, 30,000 crores, is the budget allocated for the 2,000 rupee for a woman-headed household. It's the same. And no one gives a damn about the fact that so much is being spent on metro for one city, whereas the same amount being given to a large number of women across the state is inviting so much, contestation. I feel we need to get a grip on things, and we do realize that the budgets on infrastructure, on large infrastructure, is way more than these things. Somehow, when we think of little support schemes for the deserving, if you think about it, the women need to be below poverty line. Their husbands can't work and pay tax, etc., etc. Two women in the same household can't get it. If you have a four-way, wheeler, you can't get it. I mean, you really have to be someone who is truly hard up to be eligible for these schemes. And I think we should not grudge them these things, considering how much the country spends on, on things that directly translate into a good life for the middle classes. So I'm not saying the middle classes ought to be deprived, but I'm saying one needs to think of welfare spending for the people below the poverty line. And what we're doing is something we should be pleased about, because truly the government is for everyone. And we know that the poor pay a large amount of taxes, but if you think of how much they get back in return in terms of government schemes, etc., it isn't very much.
Okay.
So I would just ask us to be a little more generous, a little more understanding of these schemes that are meant for the poor, and not see it as only or purely manipulative games of political parties. And I think we need a maturity of this thing, because imagine some other government, some other party came to power in the state tomorrow. It will need to respect something like this and keep it going, and not see it as, oh, that was that party scheme, so let's discontinue it. So we need a healthy debate on the philosophy of welfareism in the first place, and not simply reduce it to political games, which is what unfortunately it's become.
Okay. Professor Gowda, I do have to end our conversation right now, but I want to thank you for bringing us all of that perspective. Dr. Lakshmi Ashwin, thank you for joining us for this conversation. Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, thank you for joining us. That is all that we have for you here on Plain Speak. We've taken a look at two different issues this evening. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying with us over this last hour.
that this survey will clinch for the Hindu side the fact that this temple was indeed raised, of course, as per historical records too, and a mosque was built over it? Is that the game set match here?
इंडियन नेशनल डेवलपमेंटल इंक्लूसिव अलायंस का पर्याय हिंदी में सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका प्रयास, सबका विश्वास है। क्या सही मायने में आपकी अलायंस भारत के हित के लिए बनी है कि स्वहित के लिए बनी है? Ask the Home Minister, ask the Prime Minister the tough questions on what they did and did not do in Manipur. But instead, you are lending the government an opportunity to claim that it's not them who's running away from the debate, but it's you, the opposition.
They say the world of mining is run by men. But Akanksha Kumari proves it wrong. In 2021, Akanksha Kumari achieved the distinction of becoming Coal India's first female mining engineer. Hailing from Hazaribagh, a graduate from BIT Sindri, Akanksha works as an assistant manager at the Churi underground mines in North Karanpura.
कोल इंडस्ट्री है ही ऐसा, हर दिन चुनौती है, पर कहते हैं ना, अगर एग्जांपल दे आपको कि